Welcome everyone. My name is Reggie Collins and I'm the marketing manager here at Mozenda, and we are excited to be here with all of you. Let's go ahead and quickly test this chat feature and make sure it's working. Please send me your name and maybe what country you are from. And then as you guys are doing that, let me remind you about our year-end promotion that is going on. So we have our client appreciation promotion that's going on, which is a 20% bonus for all manually purchased processing credits through the end of the year. And that promo code is client appreciation and no spaces. And so you can enter that in when you're going to purchase your extra processing credits. If you're an enterprise client, please contact your account manager or email support@mozenda.com, and we'll get that taken care of for you. So today we have a lot of material to cover, so let's go ahead and just jump right in. Let me introduce our team, our presenters today. So we have Kenny Nilsson, who's an account manager in our professional services department. He is a power user of these features and has been using them for years now to service the data needs of our high-volume Fortune 500 clients. We also have Brian Patrick, who's one of our most experienced quality assurance engineers. He has played a key role in the development of these features. Thanks for being on with us today, guys.
Thanks, Reggie. Happy to be here.
Yeah, good to be here.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and take a look at our agenda today. We're going to talk about the job sequencer upgrades. We'll cover our request blocker upgrades, and we'll also show you our new feature, which is the Run JavaScript Action feature. And then at the end, we'll do a quick question and answers. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it, and I will turn the time over to Kenny, who will introduce the job sequencer upgrades.
Thanks, Reggie. So the last webinar, we introduced a new feature called the job sequencer, and we went over everything related to that new feature. And we're excited that we will continue to upgrade this this feature to allow you to do even more than what we had previously rolled out. The job sequencer, just as a reminder, allows you to automate the data collection process, everything from running to publishing to clearing your data. And with that, there's more steps involved in the data collection process. And so we've added some new steps to allow you to do even more with this job sequencer feature. So I'm going to log into my account and show you some of these new steps and functionality that we've added in this most recent release. So you'll see here I've gone to the sequences tab in my web console, and I've for this demo, I've set up a couple of sequences that we can show off some of these steps in. So the first sequence that I want to go into, we're gonna talk about the 3 new steps. And specifically, when you click on the add step, you saw in the previous version of the sequencer that you could clear your data, you could run your data, and you could publish your data. Now you'll see that there's 3 new steps. There's delete view items, there's update field value, and there's run a sequence. So we're going to talk pretty briefly about each one of these steps, and we can have some questions after if you guys have any questions. So in this sequence, we're scraping restaurant data, and we're using a data list of zip codes to search for different restaurants within each of those zip codes. So as standard, we're clearing the restaurant collection. We're then running the restaurants, the run agent step. And one thing to point out here, if we click into this step, we are, like I mentioned, we're using a zip codes data list, and we are splitting that data list into 5 concurrent jobs. And now this is where we get to one of the new steps in this sequence that we can talk about. So if you don't mind, we're going to jump into the collections tab really quick and take a look at the zip code data list. Now what you'll see here is that I have a list of zip codes, and I also have a completed field, and you'll notice that all 100 of these zip codes have a completed field of done. So if we go back into the sequence, you can see exactly what this step is doing. So say, for example, you're managing, say 1,000 different zip codes, and you're doing them in sets of 100. You can now manage and update fields with, a status indicator of done in this case, where it'll update that field value. So you can add that step, and this is what it looks like. You'll choose what view of that particular collection that you want to update the field. you'll choose the field, and then you'll choose the value, and then you can specify exactly how many items within that collection that you want to update. You know, some other use cases are maybe you have a team of people working on a particular agent, so they could update maybe like a you know, a worker field with their name, Steve, Jim, whatever it is. So that's a new step, updating fields. The next one you'll see here in this particular sequence is the delete items. Now what this is doing is it's deleting items within a particular view. So if customers are, I guess a good use case is if a customer is trying to manage their storage. And in this particular case, we run this restaurant data every single day. But after 30 days, it's not really necessary for us to hang on to this data. And so there's no point to have that data in your collection and incurring those storage costs. And so what this step does is it accesses a view, and I preset this view to be able to query out anything that was 30 days or older, and this step will simply delete all of the data that's within that particular collection. So this feature helps you to manage storage by deleting views. It can also help you to delete unnecessary data that you don't want. You know, there can be other use cases for it as well. So that's the delete items step. Now another step is the run sequence step. So I'm going to go ahead and add this one in. What this does is gives you the ability to have sequences trigger other sequences. So just for a scenario, say for example we have this sequence that runs, and we want to run only the first 100 zip codes. And while we're analyzing that data and looking over it, we don't want to lose any time, so we want to trigger another sequence. Now obviously you could trigger that other sequence with scheduling, but it's really important in this case that you trigger that sequence once the first sequence has completed. So just in simplicity, that's what this new step does. It triggers the next sequence. So if we come into our sequences tab, you'll see that this is running sequence restaurants 101 through 200, which represents zip codes 101 through 200. And that will trigger that sequence. So it'll start this sequence once that first restaurant sequence has completed. So it really allows you to control multiple sequences and do things in sequential steps from sequence to sequence. So that covers the steps that we've introduced. Now I want to go over just real quickly some functionality that we've added into the run agent step. So if I go ahead and click on this run agent step, you'll see that it's in a pause status, and we've completed 689 items of the 1,000 zip codes. So if I click on this, you'll see that we have a few jobs that are in a pause status, and you've got 10 jobs that are done. So for sake of this scenario, your account is allowed to run 10 concurrent jobs. Now, when you ran this, all of these jobs have completed. You can see that their status is done. And then what would happen next is it would start these next 5 jobs. But remember, you can run 10 concurrent jobs. So in an effort to, once again, just allow you to keep your speeds and your job capacity at its highest peak, what we would do in services before we introduced this functionality was we would pause these jobs and use the API to kind of rebatch these index ranges so that we keep the max amount of jobs running that we are allowed to have running. So now what you can do is any job that's in a pause status, you can come up here and click on the More button, and it's going to present you with 2 options. You can skip the current list item, or you can split into multiple. Now, for sake of this example, split into multiple is what we're going to want to use, because what this will do is the job that's paused, you'll see that this is doing 666 through 732 of the zip code data list. And right now, if you look down at the bottom right of your screen, you'll see that the restart index, it's on the 671st index. Now what this will do is when you click on that, it'll rebatch this particular job across new jobs, and it will allow you to have more jobs to keep your job capacity and currency high. Now the other step is to split your current list to skip your current list item. And what that does is sometimes in services we'll run a project that will run through the night, and we'll check on it in the morning, and you'll have a few jobs that are in an error status. And maybe we don't have the time to go in and fix those errors. Maybe they're bad zip codes or they're bad URLs, and we simply just want to ignore those. Now you would have to then pause all of your jobs, open up the agent builder, and you would have to fix the error and then restart, when simply you're just trying to get past those bad indexes. So now what you can do, and you can actually do this on multiple jobs, you can skip the current list item. And what that will do is move past that error and move on to the next index in the index range here. So you'll notice if I select a few of these paused jobs, I can go and click on more, and I'm still presented with skip current list item. And that really helps to not have to take the time to account for problematic indexes inside of your data list. So that kind of covers the new upgrades that we've made to the sequencer. Please send in any questions that you have, and I'll just go ahead and turn the time back over to Reggie.
Thanks, Kenny. You know, as you're talking, I actually thought of a question, if you don't mind answering it. So how many jobs can I create for a sequence, if I'm creating a sequence?
That's a good question. Yeah, so it kind of depends on your account. So best way to find that out is to contact your account manager, or you can run some jobs and just see how many are running. That would tell you how many you can actually run. One thing to point out with that question too is that we govern how many jobs you can run both on an account level and on a domain level. So certain websites, we don't want to, maybe they don't get as much traffic, and so we don't want to send too much traffic their way. So we govern it at both levels. So if you see limitations and you have questions, you can contact your account manager. You can also see in the Jobs tab the job capacity that you can run on that particular domain. So that's a good question.
Thank you. Thank you. So as you can see with our new upgrades to the sequencer, you're able to save a lot of time. And if that's not enough for you, I'm going to turn the time over to Brian now, who's going to show you how you can save even more time with our upgrades to our request blocker.
Thanks, Reggie. Now, a lot of you have been using and loving the request blocker feature, which we introduced last month. You're getting your data faster, you're getting your data cleaner, your jobs are running with fewer errors. So we're so excited that you guys have been using that and loving it. But there has been one big question that many of you are asking, which is, how do I know which requests to block? So here's our answer. It's our new AutoBlock feature. And what the AutoBlock feature does at a high level is it analyzes every request that comes in as you build out your agent and as you test your agent. And it compares it against a master list which we have, which we at Mozenda have audited and deemed to be things like advertisements and trackers and things that are ultimately unnecessary for you to get into the website and get your data. So what we have done is we compare each of these requests to this list, and if we see that this is something that's not necessary, we go ahead and we automatically block it for you. And then we add a recommendation to request block expression so that now your website and your agent will run faster in the web console as you go ahead and harvest your data. So I'm just going to go and show you how to turn this on because it's basically that easy. We come in down here to our settings. Under our miscellaneous category, we have what's called the AutoBlock. Let's enable that now. And we can see here on our navigation request panel, if you don't have this open, you can right click and select navigation requests to see this panel. And we can see our AutoBlock is highlighted in blue. That tells us it's enabled right now. And we currently have no request expressions. So what I'm going to do now is with the AutoBlock enabled, I'm going to test through my agent. And as it goes, it's going to compare each request and block the ones that aren't necessary. So we see here we've got one that's blocked. The status is blocked. We've got some more. Let's go ahead and take a look at the recommended request blocking expressions. There's actually 4 different domains which have matched against our list, and we have gone ahead and automatically blocked those for you. Let's go ahead and save those off. And so you can mix and match these auto block expressions with your regular expressions for those of you that are already using the request blocker. Now, if there's an expression which Mozenda recommends you block, but you actually want to let go through, maybe it is actually necessary for the particular website you're scraping, what you can do is over here we have this little bell icon. Clicking this will remove it from our expression list and add it to our allowed domains list. And what this means is Mozenda will now allow that domain to go through instead of recommending that you block it. So we can see it's here on our allowed domains list. And so this is a great way to just get started with request blocking. It will recommend some. Now you can always go and block more and see even more performance improvements, but this is a great way to get your foot in the door and get started with request blocking.
Excellent. That's an exciting feature. You know, something that I wanted to point out that Brian mentioned is, you know, after our first webinar, we had some of you saying, you know, is there a list of things that I should be blocking? And we were able to answer that question and create a new feature with this AutoBlock. So as you see, we love your feedback. If you have feedback for us on our new features, on something you think that can improve the software, the agent builder, let us know. So Brian, as you were talking, I kind of thought of a question during that. Is it possible to remove those expressions that you put in the allow list? Can you put them back into being blocked?
That's a good question. Actually, you can. We saw a minute ago that I pulled open that allowed domains list, and I can go ahead and select and remove any of the expressions in that list and save it. And then the next time it encounters those domains, the AutoBlock will once again recommend that you block that domain.
Awesome. That's a powerful feature right there. So let's go ahead and move on now. Brian is actually going to showcase and show you guys our new feature, which is our Run JavaScript Action feature. So go ahead, Brian.
I'm really excited to talk about the Run JavaScript Action because it can be very powerful and very useful for helping you get the data that you need. Now, it is important to note that the Run JavaScript Action does require the user to write and manage their own JavaScript code. So it's recommended that you be familiar with how to write JavaScript and how to program. There's a lot of resources out there, so if you are interested in learning JavaScript, you can go out there and get more familiar, which will enable you to be able to use this feature effectively. So I have a simple example of how this can be used. It's a currency conversion. So I want to collect data off of a website, specifically the price of a product, but the price is only listed in US dollars. What I want to do is I want to collect that price in euros as well as US dollars, so I can get a feel for what the price is like in different currencies. So what I've done is I loaded up a website. So you can see here, page 1. This website contains the current conversion rate between US dollar and euro, 0.8858 to euros to 1 US dollar. So I'm going to use the Mozenda capture action to collect a field called the conversion rate. And that's going to collect this value. And then I'm going to load up the page, which has the price in US dollars, and execute my Run JavaScript action, which I've called Convert Currency. So if I select my Run JavaScript action and click Edit JavaScript, we can see my code here. Now, what this code does is it collects that price off the page in US dollars. And then here we can see I'm actually using that conversion rate, which I collected on page 1, to multiply that by the price in US dollars to get the euro price for my product. And then I create a new element on the page just below the price in US dollars, and I inject that new converted euro price right onto the page. And then all I do is I go and collect my price in US dollars and collect my price in euros. And we will see that here with our quick test. So I just went up to the Test My Agent button and started that. So here it's loading page 1. It got my conversion rate. And as I executed my run JavaScript action, we can see it took my price from US dollars, calculated the price in euros, and injected that onto the page. I captured US dollars here, captured euros here, as we can see in our testing results. We now have both prices. So this is, again, this is just one simple example of how the run JavaScript action we use, but really there are many possibilities of things you can do to help you get the best data you need.
Oh, thanks, Brian. That truly is a powerful feature to be able to manipulate this page like that. So let's go ahead and jump into some questions that we've been receiving from you guys. So this first question here, it's for Brian in regards to this run JavaScript action. Is there anything special you have to do to activate it, or is it just there? How can you use that?
The run JavaScript action is actually just right here in our Add Actions dropdown. So click Add Actions. And here, third from the bottom is Run JavaScript. I can select that just like any of our other Agent Builder actions. And here's the dialog where I will input my code, and then when I save that, it creates the Run JavaScript action on the page.
Excellent. Here's another question here for Kenny. So how many jobs will be created when I split the job when I'm using the sequencer?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it depends on how many jobs you created when you set your run agent step. So when you split it, if you created, say, 10, it will create 10. The maximum amount that it will ever split is 10. So it'll create 10 new jobs. But if you only created 5 with your initial run agent step, it'll then create 5. So essentially, whatever whatever amount that you set that's underneath 10, it will replicate that. But if you create more than 10 jobs, the max it will ever split it by is 10.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks, Kenny. Let's see here. Let's look for this next question. Looks like here's a question for Brian in regards to request blocker. Are those expressions that are being tracked or that are being used to block certain domains, are those per agent, or is that system-wide?
Yes. As you build out and test your agent, it will detect and recommend those expressions. So when you save them, they will be saved on a per agent basis. Now that will give you the granularity to block some requests in one agent and not another. So they are maintained at an agent by agent basis.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian, for answering that question. So that is per agent basis there. Let me see if there's any more questions here. So here's a question. Can I use JavaScript to manipulate extracted amounts like adding, subtracting, etc.?
Yes, you can. So anything that you could use JavaScript for, like you could do a document query selector if you're familiar with that. You could, which is what I've actually done here. If for example, you asked about adding and subtracting, if I wanted to maybe apply a discount to my price, maybe at this particular website I am a wholesale purchaser and I automatically get a 20% discount on any product, what I could do is I could use a query selector to collect that price off the page, multiply it by my discount, and then replace the existing item on the page with that. So you can do addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, anything you need to do to perform calculations on those price elements, you can do that with JavaScript. Great question.
Excellent. Well, I think that's all the time we have for questions for right now. Thank you for joining us on this webinar. Thank you for being a Mozenda user or customer. If you guys have questions, please feel free to reach out to us. If you have feedback, reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next webinar.